Hey everybody, welcome to Visual Novel Book Club. I'm your pal Slowbeef. With me as always, my good friend Turbo C.
Hey!
My good friend Paul Hoko.
Hey.
My good friend Jim.
Hello.
My good friend Devious Vacuum.
Hello, everyone.
Did you notice the pause because I couldn't figure out who was the first friend?
I got nervous because I was like, oh shit, he called me first this time.
Who's the better
I didn't
friend?
figure out what sort of hello I'm going to say.
We could hear the gears turning in your head in that moment of silence.
Mm-hmm. So, that is the end of the Hate Journey. Hate Plus. Analog and Hate Plus, I guess.
We did it.
Oh my
Good
god,
podcast.
can I just say I'm glad to be done with this? Not because it's bad or I dislike it or anything, but like, it is such a downer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
it could
like-
not be, because because it's, you know, a prequel, but man.
Yeah. But, like, and it's also, like, we usually record these on Mondays, so it's like, oh, okay, I'm finally off work, let me go, oh, shit, I gotta play this, and like, oh, whoops, erase their memories again, oh, no!
And then that just ruins your week.
I'm sorry for ruining your week with our podcast.
I hate AI Robot Girl Mondays, basically.
It's a hate story, alright.
Boss pulls you into the office, is like, hey, your work's been kind of... Are you okay? Is everything alright at home?
Oh, yeah, it's just my wife is, you know, maybe it's better if we don't go into my wife.
Oh, okay, well, take a day if you need to.
That's quite the phrasing. So... Let's, alright.
You've met my boss. No.
Best if we don't get into my wife.
Yeah. let's get right into it, so to speak. Into the game, that is. Alright, what log do we want to cover first? Because I'll tell you what happened. I read, like, 5 of them, then my computer crashed. And I said, and then I had to reload the save, and I read, like, the other 6 from the opposite direction. And I just to point out, Yune's dialogue, I think, changed a bit, which I can get into once we talk about the actual logs. But I didn't notice this, but apparently, you know how she kind of comments, or I guess all the AIs comment as you're reading?
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be a bit dynamic based on the order you read things,
Oh.
which I never realized.
I did
Yeah,
not.
I mean, there's
Yeah, it
definitely,
sort of seems like it.
you know, because when you click on someone, you know, it knows, have you read this or that, or something like that. So I would believe that there's little incidental dialogue that gets flagged based on if you have certain information or not.
There's also, because I checked up on an LP of this after I finished all my logs, there's also some dynamic dialogue for if you've already played through, like, the cake one being a good example. It is like, oh, can you make me a cake? And you're like, I already did it in a different timeline. She's like, that doesn't make sense, but somehow I believe you.
I actually saw that, yeah. Today, I was like reviewing some of the stuff from the Let's Play. I should credit the author.
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me either.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. What log do we want to go over first?
If we do
The
them
first
chronologically,
one.
moving in
Yeah.
is the first one.
Yeah.
Moving in by
Right,
Kim So-yi.
Mm-hmm.
So, in this, Kim So-yi and her husband have moved in with her husband's parents, and she, you know, writes pretty normally, but then she starts to describe how her husband's family reacts to her, and how they won't talk to her, and that they're kind of afraid of her, and I think it really shows how much she's, like, masking her behavior in how she's writing about it. Because, like, people aren't just scared of you and, like, weirded out by you for no reason, and, like, everyone around her is like, ugh, she's really obsessed with this is bad, this is dangerous. And so, yeah, so she's kind of off the deep end with this research project. But with Yune's blood sample, she has definitive proof of the radiation leak. So yes, that was the thing. The declining birth rates and the radiation leak obviously continues. And it ends with her, and it's not very long, and it says that, you know, she's like, I'm gonna finish this and I'm gonna present it, and then my life's finally gonna be back on track. So,
Yeah.
And
Let
the
me
worst
just take a big drink out of this coffee mug.
Yeah.
it is just so painful, and like, yeah,
That's what I mean by this game being a downer.
No, and just you could see like
There's so many moments where you're like, None of these people will be happy.
And
she
we know
was-
that for certain, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. But she was in this self-destructive cycle, and there's many characters that are in these sort of self-destructive cycles where it's almost like, this huge disaster happens and everything falls apart very suddenly, but I don't think this story would have had a happy ending if everything had gone on normally. If Mute had successfully stopped Ryu, this would not have ended well, because she still would not have gotten back into her old job. It would have had to happen. So it's a lot of these sad endings are tragic, but almost like this huge event sort of cuts them off early.
Well, if you remember, there was that revolution, and let's just say, assuming that the government was put back on track, and they found out about the radiation, and they fixed the radiation, and the birth rates are okay, and everything pretty much just goes back to normal. There was that revolution that destroyed the navigation AI. So, to my understanding, they're just kind of floating out in space. So, they would just be kind of stuck there on the ship.
Yeah,
I
they
don't
didn't
even-
really resolve that plot thread as, like, if they were still on course, or... I guess not, because Mute was not designed to go on this long.
Yeah, there's that, and nobody in any of these logs ever makes mention of, going to a certain place,
Yeah.
or that there's anything else outside of just living on this ship.
Yeah, they're self-sustaining. There is no end game for this. Whatever there was gone way before, like way back in the beginning, probably like around the time of Yuna. Like it's just just nobody even has a concept of it to bring it up.
In the zine that we referenced a long time ago in the middle of this, there's a little supplementary comic that specifically is Mute talking to her creator, and he specifically says that this is a ship full of people who nobody wanted around after this big war happened on Earth, and that's who got sent on the ship. So they made it seem like it was very noble, but it was actually just a bunch of people that nobody wanted
a
around
ship of
anymore.
losers.
Is this kind of like when, I know this isn't a true thing, but like how England sent a bunch of criminals and they founded Australia, only this time there's no Australia. And
Only this time
So they just
everyone
shot 'em into
stayed
space?
horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This time
Hey.
now we sent them with top-of-the-line scientific equipment as well.
And they regress to a medieval state like we thought. But no, that's later. So
Kim So-yi is setting herself up. I mean, we've at this point we realize how, we all know how obsessed she is, but this is like the definitive, yep, there was a radiation leak, yep, that was the thing. So, if nothing else, that was going to slowly kill everyone also. The ship was doomed in many ways from the beginning.
And it's kind of interesting, because while I was... we referenced Hyune before when I was talking with New Mute, and she was sort of like, I can't forgive her for killing everyone. And then you read this log, and she goes, shit, so everyone was still going to die anyways? And I think that was sort of her aha moment of maybe Hyune isn't entirely bad, or at least it was an inevitability.
what was the harem reaction to that? Because that's got to be very awkward.
To the radiation leak?
Was there anything like that? Like, if Turbo's saying, Mute brings it up, they were gonna die anyway, I'm curious if she would bring it up when she's with Hyune.
No, they didn't. They were just kind of like, oh, yes, of course, there it is, the thing that we've, it was something because they'd suspected it all along and all that stuff.
I'm also forgetting, though, in the harem ending, too, Mute's a little more understanding now of why Hyune did it.
Yeah.
Mute is also probably a sore subject to bring up.
I think
it was
past
more
the
just
death of Mute,
it was more just oh, that explains that, there it is, the final explanation of what was going on.
That explained everything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So
Thank you, Paula.
this next log is very short. And it is obviously a discussion of suicide. So skip point right here. I guess it will be very short though, because really the only thing.
Sorry, no, I was gonna say please jump to 13 minutes.
So the only thing really is simply to report that perhaps predictably, Misun, Yuna's quote little sister, eventually killed herself, and we have a very short suicide note from her about how she is useless and caused her trouble, and that's it. I mean, I just wrote down the whole thing. And she says, I hope your life gets better with the useless parts of it cut out. You deserve to be happy. And she signs it with her real name, Pyeon Misun. And I think that this was kind of, I don't know, this character's logical end. It seemed like this was being led up to. And, man, I hate that this is, like, the thing that then also makes Yuna actually, like, think about the consequences of her actions, because she's, like, I wonder how, because it seems so obvious from the logs, but it must not have been obvious to Yuna at all that how badly she was treating Misun. I'm not sure. We can talk about that in Yuna's log.
I think we'll probably bring this log up later more in context, because, God.
Yeah,
it gets a little crazier.
Yeah, and I think, this was very short, obviously, and it was just sort of like, oh, of course this is what happens, like, in a sort of disappointing way. What else, is happening, because Yuna has been systematically abusing this woman for reasons that we still don't totally understand for a long time.
Has it been abuse?
It seems like a some sort of emotionally abusive situation, because like Misun is very clearly like sort of innocent, like like purposefully naive. Like it's definitely past the point of just being a kink. Like it's, but it's creepy and not fully explained. Like why do they have that kind of relationship? Why do they call each other little sister? Well, and we can talk about it more in Yuna's log, because she also sort of says some things about what she regrets that kind of make it seem like maybe she adopted Pyeon Misun. It's weird. Anyway, we'll get to that in a second. So the next log is from Mimi to Seongbok, and it says, "Please talk to me." And Mimi got engaged. Mimi got engaged to a woman, and it's he probably should have told Seongbok before he did it. But he explains that they're both doing it for the money and the child credit, and of course Mimi still loves Seongbok, and the woman involved is also just doing it for money, and it's not a love thing. And so he was like, I still want to see you, even though I have to do this sham marriage so that we can get the child credit and not die. And while the AIs were reading this, Hyune, of course, immediately got mad on behalf of Mimi's sham wife, and Mute was like, no, like actually, this is their only option, and it's not bad. And like Hyune, stop getting mad that this woman doesn't get romance. Not everybody gets romance.
I like this log because with God, I'm so bad with these names. There's Mimi, and who's the other person?
And Seongbok.
Yeah. Seongbok. And up till now, all the logs with Seongbok involved have been kind of like he's this very aloof kind of character where they never speak clearly, or they're always trying to pull some kind of trick on Mimi or whatever. And here, it's very straightforward. It's, look, I understand. I know how this looks. I know that you're hurting. I didn't want to hurt you. I'm just doing this for the money. She's just doing this for the money. I still want you around. This is not how it looks. And I just like that it's, from that character, it's very straightforward and very honest.
Mm-hmm. I like, that we know from the first logs from the beginning of the game that Sungbok does when he's in the future, when he's the princess's guard, still sneaks out and sees Mimi, and then, you know, in that log where Mute finds them and is like, I didn't know men could do that. So they still, I guess, like, see each other secretly. So that implies that Sungbok forgives him, and that's sweet. So they, you know, the society that they're in is shitty and bad, but I think this is kind of a not totally unhappy ending for them.
Yeah, and it's
I completely take back my bummer remark.
It's less of a bummer than I thought it would be.
At least some people get to be happy before
Right.
they're
Prisoner's dilemma. No, it's not really, but...
But also keep in mind, it's an autocratic regime that's going back to traditional ways, so there's a very real chance that they get killed afterwards.
Yeah.
Oh,
we don't
okay.
know.
Yeah, there's
If
still
you're
a
looking
chance
for
that
the
everybody
totally
dies
different-
miserably.
Yeah.
That's a relief just in terms of consistency.
And,
I don't even...
yeah, they never in Analog and in this they don't really go into. I mean, like, they go into like this. They sort of set up this legal structure where like homosexuality is discouraged, but they never explicitly talk about like punishment, like explicit like punishment or death or anything other than sort of this like this socioeconomic punishment of like it's if you have, you know, if you get
You
straight
basically don't
married
get
and have a
money.
baby, yeah, then you get money, and otherwise you don't. And it seems
Plus,
like
they make fun of
that's
you.
that was already so profound that they didn't need to like actually kill anyone.
Yeah.
They just indirectly killed a bunch of people. So yeah, so Mimi and Sungbok actually, you know, they still love each other at the end of the game, which is at least a thing. So the next one is called Old Mute, and it is written by Yuna, and it is, or no, sorry, the other way. Yuna, written by Old Mute. I knew I was going to mess that up. So Mute is talking about Yuna, and all the dirt that they dig up on her. And it starts with Mute and Seo Young talking about how President Ryu has cut the security budget in half and gave the half of the security budget to the electoral monitors, which are his police force. And Mute is telling Seo Young that she just got talked over the whole time and she didn't have any say in the legislation. So we're up to the point. Yeah.
Yeah. At this point, her security veto is beyond useless. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, because the president can override it, and we're at the point where we're right on the cusp of our future logs where they call Mute that awful fucking computer girl. And Mute. Mute also points out that no one else opposed Ryu. Like you know, the normal amount of arguing that she would expect to take place in a council meeting didn't happen, and it's sort of, they have an exchange where I like, at first I thought that Seo Young like didn't understand that Ryu had bought them all off, but it was really Mute who didn't understand, because Seo Young is like, well, of course that happened. It wasn't that she didn't realize it. It's that she knew all along, and she was like, well, of course. Ryu had been responsible for proposing a lot of this legislation, although indirectly. And Mute checks, and all of the social changes that he's passed, he didn't propose them directly, but of course he was acting through other people that he bought off. And Seo Young's like, well, of course. And Mute apparently did not make that connection until right now. And we get a little bit of like this idea of where she talks about like where she had talked about like, oh, she's so tired and it takes so much longer to do the computation she needs to do to make a decision.
Right.
And I guess that's this is kind of like finally like a here's like this sort of physical consequence, was that's why explicitly saying like that's why she didn't understand that this subterfuge was going on when it was really obvious. But it still doesn't make sense to me, because if Seo Young saw it so obviously, like, why didn't she say it more? Seo Young's also out of touch in her own way.
She's got this complex where she very much considers herself to be, Mute to be her superior. So I guess it might be kind of a thing where she must already know this, or if she's not bringing it up, then obviously it's not important, or something like that.
I can only assume, and so then Mute starts talking this out, and she's like, and she's like, how could Counselor O have lost his seat as the Counselor of Education?
Well, and before it even gets there, they had the sort of discussion of like, Mute was saying like, or they were talking about how Ryu didn't, had only proposed one bill directly from himself up until this point. This was the first time that Ryu had proposed a bill and then just set it in motion. Most other times it was from someone else, except for one other one, which I forget what it was.
Yeah.
Wasn't it the Unity Act?
The Unity Act.
Unity Act, yeah. And they're like, oh, that makes sense because it's captaincy. And then, it goes into this argument of Hyo going, are you sure that's the only one? I thought he did more. And it went back and forth a little bit until Mute goes, oh shit, the Meritocracy Act, where, counselors have to be of a certain level of smartness, was also one proposed by Ryu.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was just like, oh, that's just a throwaway act. He couldn't possibly be doing any sort of power play here.
Yeah, and the implication being that he has to propose this because the act itself is going to betray the council members. Like, he can't rely on one of them not to catch on if he feeds it to them first.
Mm-hmm. And so then, but Mute's like, yeah, that didn't make sense because how could Counselor O have been so on board with this if, and then he lost his seat. And she says something along the lines of, like, what if he tried to fix the exams in his favor, but someone beneath him refused to? It might, and it could have been a power play, but it would have looked like just sticking to your morals. And then, of course, she realizes that that's what Yuna must have done. And, or she doesn't even know that name yet. And then, Seo Young suggests reading through the private documents of the university nobility. And Mute is like, no, that's a breach of privacy. I would never do that. So we have sort of this, like, it's sort of just like present Mute, where she's just like, no, I would never do that. The nobility are the greatest people. Like, oh, I need to respect them. And, but Hyo's like, well, we have the root password. And, but so I think last time we talked about, like, are there privacy laws? And I guess there are privacy laws.
Yeah, in this log, it's explicitly stated that going through the logs of nobility is illegal.
Yeah, so that's where she gets all this stuff.
And if Mute's got a prime directive, she certainly doesn't keep to it.
And so then they eventually do. Mute relents and they read through the documents, and Mute starts reading through it, and she's like, oh, everything's written in Chinese, what's up with that? And again, like, they're so out of touch, and it's just ridiculous. And so then she starts to go through the documents, and she tells Seo Young, like, go get tea, and come back, because she reads through everything, and Yuna's plot becomes apparent, and everything that we know about Yuna and Ryu becomes apparent to her, and she also finds that Yuna was the one who ordered Professor Kim to be murdered. Yep. And so she just ends it with, I found out who killed your husband, and then of course the title of the document is Yuna.
Yep.
So it took them this long to figure it out.
Which is too long. This has been my problem for a while now. Too long.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it would have definitely been served by sort of emphasizing in other documents at least the reason why they couldn't already do that. Like, the reasons, more emphasis on, we can't just go through people's documents. Like, maybe some kind of ongoing argument between Seo Young and Mute about reading documents to prevent insurrection or something like that, just so that no matter what order you read things in, you're gonna get some flavor of like why they couldn't have figured this out until now.
And really, Mute's been portraying herself in her interactions with this, first stage of the government. That, she knows more than anyone else. She has more experience than anyone else. And she is the one, she relies on the fact that, hey, I've been through all this before. This is why I can wield so much power, because I can make the safety of everyone my prime, the main thing I'm going for, and the way I yield my power is going towards that, where someone else would be corrupted. And she's already been corrupted. I mean, not in a sense of that she's, sort of out for personal gain, but in the fact that, she's not able to function in this role anymore. She just can't. And it's kind of annoying in the fact that I don't know that it's well explained enough. It's kind of a throwaway, or just it's kind of just like a catch-up way of getting everything together and almost retconning things to be like, oh yeah, the reason why she's so bad is because, AIs were never supposed to be this way. And it's like, yeah, I wish that was shown better.
I think it's sort of I think there's a couple different themes in this game, and I struggle to figure out which one is the main theme that we're supposed to be focusing on, because I find myself focusing a lot on Yuna and how the society collapsed, and yet a lot of those things are sort of glossed over, they're meant to be in the background of, instead, this plot of who was Mute. And, but then stuff like this sort of glosses over elements of who was Mute and the consequences of being an immortal consciousness and these kind of things too. So neither one of these threads are sort of the dominant one, and so I keep putting my heart behind one or the other and waiting for it to pay off, and it's not quite as much as I would have hoped for it to be.
But maybe that gets back to the original thing we were saying before, that these are just all deeply flawed people in a deeply flawed society. The society before this was not that great either. They suppressed democracy. They were, it was autocratic and all this stuff. There is no heroes here. There are no, you really, as much as you want people who are being sort of repressed or outright abused to be the heroes, those are the people who just end up being the tragic victims, and nobody is the hero. Just everybody ends up either shitty or being a shitty person.
And that's true, although I think there's still room for more, just more words about either the character of Yuna or the character of Mute that I feel we're kind of because we got so mad of why didn't anyone figure this out? Why didn't they tell, why didn't they do it this way? Why didn't they do it that way? And there's still a lot of questions that I think could have been addressed within the logs that are just kind of glossed over.
Yep.
That wouldn't have redeemed them or anything, but to increase our understanding of those characters, which is part of I think what makes both of these games really really great, is the sort of level of emotional understanding that you have of the characters, even though they're all awful. I don't feel the same level, I certainly do not feel the same level of emotional understanding of Yuna as any of the villains in Analog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just feel Yuna is so important, and also Old Mute is so important, and I don't quite get the same kind of picture of who they are versus in Analog, where when characters were introduced and described, you very quickly got more. I feel it was more impactful. Who they were became readily apparent, and there are characters in this where that's more true. I think Kim So-yi, you sort of get who she is right away, and Aejong and Jin-ah, you kind of get who they are right away as they describe each other when they're in love.
I think that really the place where this shines is with the interpersonal relationships, where they all very much feel like real people, and then the main plot, like the linchpin of the entire thing, with the destruction of the ship and the downfall of the society, it's not so good.
Yeah, because I mean, Yuna is basically broken and super selfish. Ryu is like, we have no characterization of Ryu at all. He's just a manipulator. Like, we don't get any picture of him as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
and he is, as Mute describes him in the beginning, easily manipulated, and that's what Yuna did. And she sort of radicalized him even more than the ideas he already had. And then that was him. I don't know, but we'll have a lot to talk about, I think, during Yuna's log, but we have one more between now and then, and it's Old Mute and Hyoseo Young interrogate Yuna's maid, Miss Huang, or Huang.
I think we had different logs.
Oh, really?
You didn't get
maid interrogation?
I do not have a maid interrogation.
Ooh.
Did you have something else?
Yeah, let's go with yours first.
Okay, the maid interrogation is that, so Old Mute and Hyoseo Young are interrogating this maid. And the maid starts out by, like, the maid is like, down to earth immediately. And is like, oh, I'm so glad you're talking to me, the police, because I've been worried about her. And she uses the words unstable and unhinged. Hyune, while we're reading this, immediately has a crush on this maid. Calm down.
Jesus.
The maid is wearing mourning attire, which Yuna makes her wear as mourning for Misun. And the maid describes Yuna like, so she's like, so I gave Lady Yuna some tea, and she like made me sit down with her and started like talking to me about her problems, and I was like, why are you talking to me about your problems? Like, why are you doing this? And it seemed like she was sort of talking to her as if she was talking to Misun.
Yeah, and, the idea is that since Misun is gone now, she's not taking it very well. She's kind of treating her maids as if they were that kind of personal connection, which I don't think that Yuna kind of like considered that to be the case. I don't think that there was actually a real connection there, but it was really kind of like a coping mechanism on her behalf. And then from the maid's perspective, it's like, I don't know, it's like, imagine you were working your job and you had like a coworker that just came into your office and sat down and started just spilling these really personal problems. Mm-hmm. And
that's definitely never happened to me before.
Yeah, I'm just here for a paycheck, dude. We're coworkers. I mean, good luck and everything, but I don't want to deal with this.
And especially there's a class difference between them as well. So the maid is restricted in what she can do.
She kind of has to. Yeah, she kind of has to sit there and just kind of like pretend, or maybe not even pretend. I think in the log she's kind of more stunned than anything. Yeah,
it's like if your boss came in, not this has ever happened to me, and started complaining about his home life. That's something you got to sit there and be like, oh, that sucks. Yeah. You can't be like, hey, I don't want to hear this from you.
Yeah, I had that experience too. Yeah, it's like, wow,
yeah. I had an old coworker come into my office one day and be like, "Women, they're terrible. I swear off. And don't ever. You got a girlfriend? Don't ever get a girlfriend. They're terrible. They'll chew at you and eat you up."
I hate those fucking conversations.
Mm-hmm. It's like, man, we're not at that level of familiarity. I'm sorry. Just stop.
Yeah.
And it's even worse when it's like
you can't like rebuke them if they say something messed up, really, because and especially because you don't even know how accurate their story is, and because you don't know them.
Yeah.
Well, there's that, and then you get the people that they can't take the social cues. Like, you will be putting out every single cue that you are not interested in.
I've literally gone back to work, staring at the screen, clicking on things, and they just keep talking.
My most productive is really when people are trying to talk to me.
Yep. I'm laser focused.
Like, there's this guy that would come into my office and just always want to shit talk my boss, and no, I'm not getting involved in that. You can sit there and say whatever you want. I am not going to reciprocate.
See, this is why all offices are why everyone's so big on open offices. Because if you complain,
that does absolutely.
No, I know they're horrible.
Nothing.
Yeah, I know.
I had, oh my god, I had a guy start crying because it was so awkward. I felt really bad for him actually in a way, but he was into this this woman who worked with us, and she was like, I don't date coworkers, which was her like kind of excuse, you know. But then her last day when she left, he like I guess asked her out again, and she said no, and he started to like cry.
Is this Milton?
No, it was not. That's another person we meant on the street. No, it was like, oh, like, you almost wanted to, like, kind of walk over and be like,
They're
there.
Yeah,
Yikes.
Not his real name, but, like, Bobby, let's just go. You know what I mean? Like, I know you don't know. This is really
we're
bad.
adults.
This is so bad.
Job.
Like,
Stop it.
Yeah. It was like every Ricky Gervais like office or extras like awkward moment times a million and real, you know. Yeah. So it was like, but at any rate, no.
But yeah, so this is basically exactly how this maid talks about what she experienced. Also, like she's very sort of blunt and she basically is like, this is uncomfortable, and it's clear that Yuna, and it seemed like Yuna had no idea that she was hurting Misun until now, and just sort of used. But I can see from Yuna's perspective, like Misun was actually the only person that she could be emotionally honest with, and she obviously needed that because her whole life is just an elaborate web of lies.
Yeah, like a huge 3D chessboard.
But she just didn't even think at all that was affecting Misun. And she doesn't think about it until it's too late. And I think maybe even at this point, she's grieving, but it doesn't hit her until the next log. What that
make sure
really
she's
means.
straight. She breaks down and cries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so they basically so then Hyoseo Young and Mute are just kind of like, that's really weird, while they're interrogating this maid, and that's the whole log.
Yeah. So I didn't get that log. So we talked about this a little after last session. I only had 6 logs to extract, whereas you guys had 9, I believe.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you guys got a little bit extra than me. My next log that I have is after Yuna is politics makes strange bedfellows.
Oh yeah, that's later.
Did you guys get that one?
Yeah, that's on the list
that's
too.
later for us.
I had that one.
Okay. So we have
still on track.
One more log before that, which is this next log, which is by Yuna, which is called "I Will Be His Bride." And Yuna is writing this to Misun, and she says she misses her and that she would have always taken care of her. This is the first time that I think that Yuna has explicitly written about Mute, and she calls Mute reactionary and says her zeal to protect the establishment could well cause the downfall of what she thinks she's protecting, which is a little on the nose.
Yep.
And so it just made me think of, when Mute comes back, that Yuna's like, oh, we were friends. And there's not even, they don't even talk to each other. Like, I at least figured they were enemies, but they weren't even enemies. They were nothing to each other. And so she's writing to Misun, and, she describes that she says that she finally had sex with Ryu because she was sad. And she was so sad that she was like, I finally just needed, like, some other human affection. And so she says it like, oh, I allowed him to have sex with me. Even though, now it's this weird, like, transaction where she's like, she'll lose value.
It's that kind of notion that, again, everything in her life is an elaborate setup in order to give her the best possible outcome. And I think with Misun gone, she doesn't have that vent to just open up to somebody and not have to worry about and not have to be part of the game, because
she doesn't have the touch point for what's real and true, like how she really feels.
So midway through this log, she's just like, I'm tired. I'm so tired. I have to worry about everything. So I slipped up, and she kind of like talks about sex with Ryu as if it was like an accident, or where it was like a moment of weakness, where it's like, shit, I messed up.
And she's basically like, oh well, I know that then she's like, oh, and the sex was bad, which like we could have guessed that from the very beginning. Can
I just say, this is the first time ever I would almost have liked some kind of bonus content where like Ryu was the AI reading this one. Because she's not just at his bed. She really get like his clumsy gropes, and I had to get myself off while I was kneeling in front of. It's just like I would just kind of love to see like this is totally wrong. Like no way. Like,
well, what would happen is we wouldn't be reading this log. There'd be like he would have made a bunch of redactions. So it's like his amazing gropes. The sex was so good. He was so great, and I.
Huge penis, huge, just huge.
that's actually just the whole log. That's all the text is just replaced with that.
Huge.
So yeah, and she's in her personal writing, she's so blunt and transparent, but so she's like, well, I know that I'm gonna lose value to him now, but I'm pretty sure we're gonna get married and it's gonna work out and be okay. And she also because they know that Mute and Hyo-Seo-young have read their personal files, and so they know that they're dating. So they have to announce that they're going to get married now because the jig is up. And
they kind of sense something's coming.
Yeah. So, and she also, I think, makes this point, which sort of harks back to what she had written about before, where she says she enjoys the feeling of being completely powerless. And this goes back to this idea where, like, she feels like if she is completely powerless in society, then she will have this stability of never having to worry about anything, because everything will be decided for her.
Yeah, like I said.
And, like, that's how she's going to achieve peace.
Yeah, it kind of comes back to the idea that if she can cement herself in a role where she has the power to manipulate people, but is still kind of looked on as somebody that doesn't actually have that power, then she can basically get whatever she wants without having any of the culpability.
Yeah. She can have no consequences and no anxiety.
Yeah. This is a supremely selfish woman.
Yeah, and it's just like to the level that she goes, and again, like, and even though she writes about Misun, like, she still doesn't totally get it. And so they talk about how Ryu and Yuna talk about how they're going to publicly announce their engagement the next day, and she says that, and she's like, my plan's coming together, everything's gonna work out. And she says, I thought this moment would feel like something, but it doesn't feel like anything, and the only thing she can think about is how she wishes Misun was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I feel like, I mean, obviously, like, you know, obviously that was what was going to happen.
I feel like even if we didn't have this connection with, like, Misun, though, she would all, like, and this is completely hypothetical with fictional characters, but, like, just judging from her personality type, she would still feel nothing at that sort of moment, because it was all sort of meticulously planned out, and it's just sort of, oh, this is the goal that I work for.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a victory. Yeah, well, and also her victory is like not needing to feel anything.
Yeah. Well, and we got like hints of this before when I think she logged something like, and then he'll be forced to stick with me as a bride or something like that because of. Yeah.
She wanted to make divorce illegal.
Right.
Yep.
So I'm kind of getting this just now, where this kind of stuff, and then the suicide of her little sister, it kind of ties into what character she's portrayed as in the future. Like, I forget what log it is, but there was this log where she's just this kind of nothing person. And she spends hours staring at the wall, which that kind of makes sense, because if she's gotten everything that she wanted, you know, she's got this society where women aren't really taken seriously, and they don't really have to do anything other than like household duties and maintaining families and stuff. She's got it, but she doesn't have that one person that she actually cares about anymore.
Yeah, there will be no satisfaction.
She's got nothing. She's got nothing to work towards. She's got nothing to care for.
She's a person that loves like working towards something, and like and we get a taste of that sort of again in, I don't know, however many months it is until the death of old Mute, when she's sort of like relishing in the moment again when she's able to show her trump card to old Mute again.
She's basically Kim So-yi, but without the morality. Like, she has no moral compass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she's the same, like, kind of academic who's like, I'm going to keep working for this no matter what. It consumes her life, and without it, she isn't anything. Yep.
And
and that does, I do like that, though, like we talked about last time, about how that sort of, these characters not allowing themselves to be weak or show weakness ultimately destroys them.
Yeah.
So yeah, the next thing we get to is Politics Makes Strange Bedfellows by Hyoseo Young. And this is where they meet with Counselor Smith in a sort of mirror to toward the beginning of the game when they met with Counselor Smith. And he sort of tries to act the same way and is like being like snotty to Mute, but Mute's just impassive. Like, she's like, no, this is serious. She's sort of defeated. And it's basically Mute and Hyoseo Young trying to convince Smith to get on board for the coup attempt that is about to happen. And she doesn't want Smith to help with the coup, because he hates her. She wants him to take over and sort of put everything back to the way it was before Ryu got any sort of power.
Yeah, they meet with him, and he's kind of got this attitude where it's like, oh, your plan backfired, didn't it? Everything's all screwed up, and you know it's kind of an I told you so moment, and they're just like, yep, you're right, we made a big mess.
And Hyoseo Young even writes, like she did before, like, Mute looks really cool. And I like the, like, weird, like, future anachronistic sort of thing of, like, old people saying, wow, she looks so cool.
Yeah. So, like, one thing I will, I'm gonna go on a little bit of a tangent here. One thing I do like about this game is the search function, so I can go back and actually find the other old documents that we're talking about. But I'm reading through the original Smith conversation that we had at the beginning, and New Mute is just like sort of being like Heo right here, and you know, fawning over how cool old Mute is.
Aw, poor baby. So yeah, obviously Smith pledges his support to the coup, which we know does not work out.
Yeah, and also see, this one is a little frustrating too because it's got like a really good line, which is like, when Mute gets provoked, when he like provoked Mute, and she kind of like finally like digs in, and she's like, "You refuse. A good man dies for nothing, and your grandchildren die up in a totalitarian Neo-Confucian dystopia." And
that was such a good line.
And it was such a good line. I'm like, man, if they had like explored this further, like if like Christine Love had introduced this sort of plot line a little earlier before we read The Death of Mute, and like if there was this effort where they actually tried to do something but failed, at least you would have felt way more respect for Mute. But instead, we're getting it after we know that she failed, and like there's no development after. It's like we don't see all the effort that went into the coup attempt. We don't see that, like if this had been some kind of like concerted effort that did have one tragic flaw that she just wasn't capable of seeing, instead of just her being incapable of observing the political tenor and just this whole totally like idea of it, like that would have been a way better use of this main plot line. But like this,
but it is interesting from the perspective of. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna sort of agreeing with that. It's just such a strong, confrontational and confident line to come from a character, and it's a little bittersweet coming from that. We know that confidence is sort of unfounded, and she's super flawed.
I think this is interesting also from the perspective of, we know that old Mute specifically chose these files and not other files. Like, there's probably lots of logs about how they set up the coup that make her look very heroic, but I don't know if this is a great excuse for the storytelling, but like, there's that also that frame of like, Mute chose these specifically to make herself look like a coward. And sort of a non-entity, an out-of-touch old coward, and like that's sort of how we end up, just because we don't know that much information about, you know, the other stuff that was going on. We just hear the bad stuff, or the parts where they didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it makes like the overall story experience better, but there is that sort of reading of it where like this is an in-character thing for old Mute to do upon realizing what she had done.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Like, if for her to be in that position for so long, obviously there must have been a bunch of other maybe adventures that she went on and was really heroic. But from what we see, it's just, yeah, we get this very flawed kind of view.
So the next log is the biggest bummer of all the logs, I think. This session, maybe? The Kim So-yi titled Everything Will Be Alright.
Oh boy.
And this, you know, the Kim So-yi storyline is obviously the most painful one. But man. So she actually is going to present her research to the Counselor of Engineering. She got an audience. And she excitedly says this to her husband, who does not share her excitement and instead seems to have finally given up on her.
But also, it's like the most legitimate reaction you could picture. He's almost a stand-in for the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And he's like, well, what if that doesn't work? Like, and she's like, well, that's not probable. Like, the probability of that happening...
It's irrefutable evidence.
Yeah.
Who would ever say that there are such things as alternative facts?
I actually really relate. I relate a lot to Kim So-yi in the way that she talks about, like, this, like, because I have definitely said that, like, well, that's very improbable, and so I don't think I should plan for it. Like, I've said that in the past. Not the recent past, but in my past as an academic.
Yeah. It's like in all of her
specifically about my personal life and not, like, the research I was doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like in all of her planning, there's this human element that she either cannot process or just completely ignores.
Yeah.
But she does have sort of the moment of humanity afterwards, I guess we could say, when, like, her husband just sort of, you know, is angry and turns away. He's like, well, no, would it make you happy if I had some sort of backup plan or something like that?
Yeah, she's like, even though it's very unlikely, I'll make one just to make you happy. And it's like, okay, thank you.
It's like, you don't, like, just go with the first part. You don't need to add on, like, I think you're wrong by making me plan for this. You're wasting my time.
Yeah, but I'll do it if it makes you happy. Which,
but hold on a
there's
second.
this line
so
in
she
here,
doesn't
it's
really
like,
do it though. Like, she just lies to him.
No.
Yeah, she doesn't.
Lie, yeah.
But
I think she would have done, like, something but
importantly, she says, I will do this because I love you. And he pauses and he says that she has never said that to him before.
Yeah.
Which is fucked up and really shows, because her logs, like her personal writing, paints a much more normal picture. And if she never told him that she loved him when he was so wonderful and so supportive and so loving of a person this entire time, like, that's wild. Yeah. That's awful. Like, and it sort of shows, like, oh, Kim So-yi, like, you are a lot worse then you present yourself in writing.
And I'm not even sure what to call this. If it's just like thickness, or like I don't know what kind of I don't know what kind of personality trait to draw out of this. If I don't know.
It's obsession and selfishness, but I think obsession is a good word because it also applies to Yuna, where these are people who are consumed by something, and it doesn't compute when they try to interact with someone who is not consumed by the thing that they're consumed by.
I mean, I'm really glad. Like, this log really kind of portrays that this is, her husband. This is a guy that has just kind of reached his breaking point, and he's done everything.
And he's so
in
sad
my opinion, he's done everything right. He's
the
really
woman
tried.
that he loves is gone. Like, he's like, she's gone, and he's reacting to her like she's gone.
Yeah, yep. He's picking up right away. Like, he's allowing himself to be like, like mollified here, but like he knows that like she just like there's something fundamentally like just not there. Like, there's just this missing piece of her that he's just like, what else is going to happen? Like, I just can't get this out of her. If it's gone, if like it's lost forever.
And if I'm reading this correctly, in these later logs, Kim So-yi, like, she was a little awkward before, but in these later logs, she seems like she's worse.
Yeah.
Like, she seems kind of almost robotic.
Well, she's super desperate because this is the only thing that she knows. Is doing science, sort of.
Yeah. She's tried everything else. Like, because obviously, the impact of the situation that happened earlier, it has like these repercussions that like just she keeps trying out different solutions, and obviously they're not going to work. Yeah. I mean,
but none of her solutions are opening up. Like, none of her solutions are telling anyone else that she's afraid, or that she's, that she feels that she failed, or anything, or that she's sad. Like, she didn't say any of those things.
No. But also, we don't even know if she's
capable of
capable
taking action.
of it.
Yeah. So they talk, and she says, let's make fallback plans, and he says that he wants to have children. If this doesn't work out, he wants to have children. He describes the children, and he's like, I want a girl and two boys, and he makes it clear that he wants children because he wants children, not because of the law. And she agrees, but then she immediately
which I thought was
she
really
doesn't
sweet.
mean it. Yeah, almost.
And then,
almost.
And yeah,
she basically
like,
does.
I feel a little bad for him because I got the better part of the deal here.
Yeah, it's like, my fingers are crossed. I don't really mean any of that because my plan's going to work. And
so this log is the day before the computers were wiped.
Yeah, and it's funny. The Yuna comments on it in the solo playthrough. She's like, she says something along the line of like, oh, so ye. And because like she's so disappointed in her, because like she picks up on this stuff really quick, and then she's just like, and then she just notices right away like, oh, this is the date right before.
Yeah, and the AI's mind say that she must have been devastated, but we don't hear about that because the computers were wiped. So I don't know what happened.
Kim So-yi.
But yeah, by the end of this, Kim So-yi has, like, sort of, I think, finally revealed herself as more villainous than we originally thought. Like, she is, I mean, not, she has, there's an explanation, but there's also a lot of choices. She doesn't open up, and at the end, she's, there's the clear parallel with Yuna and her situation. She has this very supportive person in her life and keeps driving them away until they just kind of give up. And
I like how
refusing to open up and like staying focused on this obsession instead of the people that care about you.
Yeah, I like how you use the word villainous, because that really kind of brings forward how a lot of the really good villains are, like, they're just people, and they're normal people that have made bad decisions, or they've let things just consume them. Yeah, so in a way, she is kind of villainous. maybe.
I mean, only like
Yeah, she didn't start out that way.
Yeah, I know, but she's not doing anything that negatively impacts society. She's just being, mean to her husband.
Yeah,
Well,
but that's still, I mean,
tiny
she's still a
villain.
villain for what for what she's, her husband, who is clearly, in a very bad way and trying his hardest.
Like, she wants him to be happy, but here, like, in these kind of asides in the log, it's really kind of obvious that she's just kind of saying things to mollify him.
Yeah, she can't see past herself. But yeah, so then that's it. That's the end of Kim So-yee's story, because the computers were wiped and presumably things didn't work out.
You'll have to fill in the blanks here.
Did they have children?
No,
I guess it was illegal for them to get divorced, so...
They got on an escape pod and got back to Earth.
No, just the husband did, though. Not her.
Well, maybe they went to couples therapy. I don't know.
They got the couples therapy, they worked everything out, and you are the great descendant of them. And that's how everything works out.
Oh my god, the twist.
Hold on, furiously working on my fanfic.
And you have, yeah, that's the big reveal, because you're like, why does my DNA still have evidence of genetic decay due to radiation?
Hold on. I'm sorry, wait a minute. Jim, did you say fanfic? At Christine Love. At pitch. Hate ++. I think we got it. I don't even know if that's
the more programming-oriented sequel.
Oh, Hate boy. ++, where you have to go in and modify their AI subroutines.
Oh my god.
I would love that, though, actually.
That would be great.
I hate myself for admitting that, but I would actually love that. So, is that the last log that you guys got?
No.
No, the last one. Yeah,
oh, we're
sorry.
not. Are we fucking done yet? God!
We got
almost
one more.
done!
Things need to get a little darker.
Yeah, just in case it ended on too high a note.
Yeah,
remember when Dectilon was like, your podcast makes me so happy?
Sorry, anyway. Dectilons. Sorry to Dectilon specifically for this.
Yes. The rest of you, what the hell, go to hell. But
so this, Yuna, of course she has the last word. Striking back at society's betrayal. And Yuna is writing to Misun again. And she has heard about Mute's plan, so this is she hears about the coup and is setting up her response to the coup and the fake bomb that they plant and all that stuff. And she heard it because her own father, Counselor O, was complicit in the plan.
Yeah, and heard it from somebody who heard it from him.
Yeah, and it's weird because it sounds like it wasn't Smith. It sounds like it came from somebody connected to Counselor O.
Yeah. So so Counselor O feels like, yeah, we gotta stop her. Or stop them, and so Yuna, I mean, she's setting up this, like, super family-oriented society, so she feels tremendously betrayed and angry, and I wrote down specifically that she says, I'm so tired of being unappreciated, which, like, yo, dog, isn't that what you wanted, though? What do you mean, unappreciated? Like, you're literally setting yourself up to never be appreciated again.
It's too bad there wasn't a failing New York Times that didn't appreciate all the good work we've done.
Oh my god. So, yeah.
I promise our next visual novel won't be Trump-oriented.
Or can we promise that?
No.
We'll find him. We'll find him wherever we go.
I saw there's a Kickstarter.
Oh no. So this is the part that really, I feel like there's some profound thing here about Yuna's character, but I just get more confused. And she specifically says to think she's lamenting the way society is now, and so she says to think of the status quo that let Misun die, that entrusted her to someone like Yuna instead of a real father,
or a strong husband. Yeah, a real father, a strong husband.
I'm sorry, what?
Yep.
What? Entrusted instead of a father or a husband? What?
Because this absolves her of blame. There is no blame for her whatsoever in her picture of society. She's formed a thing where she can never be blamed because she's just a woman, and she had
society is to blame.
Why'd you put this other woman in the hands of this weak woman.
And she says to Misun, I want to make a society that would have protected you. And he's like, from you! You're the one who did this! And she's saying, like, oh, like, so she's sort of like, oh, I wanted to protect you from herself? Like, you're an abuser. Like, you abused this woman, and she killed herself, and that is you who did that.
I'm just imagining, like, the ending of Devil's Advocate, where it's like, geez, all she wanted was a little bit of attention.
So yeah, it's a lot, and it's sort of unsatisfying, like, because she's just gone, like, at this point, like, she's gone, she's way off into Denial Town, and that's it, like, this is the end. She makes this claim that she makes a claim that she has done all of this simply to protect Misun. So she's gone. That's it. Like, this doesn't make sense, because it doesn't make sense. She's trying to justify something, to herself, and it has stopped making sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's gone. Like, this is, like, that's the end. And then that's the end of the log.
It's not the strongest log.
Yeah, it doesn't really send her off with, like, a big mission statement or anything sort of, because she doesn't get anything profound from it. She's destroyed at this point. I mean, then the coup happens, or the computers are wiped, and she, you know, goes on to be the queen and not ever do anything. And that's it. And she doesn't feel anything, and you know, that's it.
You got what you wanted.
So I went back and looked at the first logs that we read in the beginning to just kind of look back at things, and I kind of brought up some of them as we were talking about stuff. But, you know, the Mute describes, I guess, yeah, in Girl Talk, when Mute is talking to Princess Ryu, she's says, you know, when she's talking about marriage to the princess, and she's like, why didn't my mom tell me about this? And Mute's like, well, she didn't want to tell her, but, like, her mom's been zoning out lately and just sitting around and staring, and that's all the characterization we really have of Queen Yuna. That she's really mean to the help, and that she just zones out for hours at a time in a room by herself and is not a present mother. So I feel like there's something profound that should, like, I feel like I should have some profound feeling about it, but I feel like we kind of already got it at this point.
Yeah.
Earlier in the logs, which is sort of like, and of course, here we are now back at the beginning of Analog.
Yep.
I would feel profound, but I'm still reeling from that extremely terrible Al Pacino impression that Poa pulled out.
Oh,
all of my impressions just sound like, it's President Trump.
Oh, I'm teasing you. Sorry.
Look at me, I'm slowbeef.
I'm out of order. You're out of order. This whole system is out of order. We're just teasing.
I'm sorry for interjecting that. I was just thinking that the past few minutes. I wasn't even listening.
Couldn't get over it.
You just weren't even listening to the entire thing. Damn, that is a horrible impression. I can't let this pass. I have to call him out on this.
I couldn't even. I felt too bad. I'm like, I can't keep this to myself. It's almost like being backstabby. Like,
and that was the best drag you could come up with in the time that you.
I didn't even want to drag. It was. I felt. Right.
I felt he felt morally obligated to tell you about how.
It's
he felt
about
in his
disseminating
own heart.
information. It's not about insulting anyone.
I understand. You don't want me to go out in public. You know, in the same way, you don't want your friend. You don't want your friend to go out on a date in like a really bad jacket.
We don't want to do like a bad impression on like some sort of thing that a lot of people would listen to.
Let's not turn it into a noble thing. Yeah,
no.
I'm just being a dick.
Hey, Paula, tell Slowbeef to do his Trump for you. Let's hear that one.
I do it. I can't do Trump, but I literally can't. I don't know how. Like,
okay, I'll bring it up. We have a chat going on, and Slowbeef was talking in the chat like 40 minutes ago about how he couldn't do Trump impression after Jim did one.
But then Turbo is like, "What, did you mute your mic and try?" I was like, "No, I would have done it and taken my lumps or whatever." Lumps. Yeah, I do impressions. It's just there has to be certain right instances, and I don't know why, but I can't get in that mindset.
Speaking of muting yourself,
right? Exactly.
Mute
anyway,
is a character.
Yeah, let's derail back. I apologize.
Make our ancestors proud again.
Oh boy.
Alright, so now it's the ending.
Alright. Do we want to go... Which order we want to go in?
Mine's
you, the audience at home, dial in your vote.
Mine's probably like the least dramatic because it's the hack ending. So it's very short.
Okay. Yeah, isn't your ending kind of like considered not canon or like the joke ending or whatever?
Yeah, it's like a joke ending. The
Yeah.
jerk ending for jerks like me. Yes, the joke ending.
Let's do let's do yours. Ending. We'll do mine, and then we'll do the
ending call. They said, "Get a load of you."
The jerk ending call. They said you'll love 8+, 5 stars.
So Mute and Hyune are there, and Mute's like, "Oh, Hyune, I'm so glad you were here to support."
Wait, you had Hyune and Mute?
I know. And they say, "Thank you for rescuing them." And Hyune says, "Oh no, I didn't mean to thank you, Miss Investigator. I was thanking Mute. Mute, thank you for rescuing me." And Hyune then makes me personally feel bad in an unnecessary way by targeted, of course, at me specifically,
the player,
Devious Vacuum. And Hyune goes to an aside and she says, "Wow, this is I guess things can turn out great after all. This is the perfectly happy ending I always dreamed of." I was like, "Fuck you." You're trying to make me feel bad because I'm playing with the two girls ending because I don't want Mute to die. And
it's like, we know you.
Why are you shaming me for not wanting this character to die? So fine. Then all it does is I get a dialogue choice and it says, "What big dramatic ending line should we end on?" So I can screen cap it for posterity.
This game is owning the fuck out of you.
I know. I finally got mine after all this. So I have 3 choices. Talk about hate, talk about analog, or just kiss her. So if you...
So
of
after
course,
they
I
kiss,
did all of
then.
these. Yeah. If you choose talk about hate, she says, "Let's look forward to our hateful days together," and there's a little screenshot, and that's it. Cut to credits. If you pick talk about analog, she talks about how nice it'll be to have a physical body, and she says, like, "I think analog is better than digital," which is kind of like, she thinks that this game is better than Christine Love's previous game, Digital: A Love Story. And just kiss her, Hyune sort of edges toward Mute and is like, "Oh, little sister Mute, let me kiss you," which is real fucked up. And Mute backs away, and then the screen fades to black, and that's the end.
I was kind of imagining Hyune saying that entire thing. Like, let me kiss you, because that's fucked up.
And so at the end, like, I guess they get together. But, I would rather them be together than be with me, like this space investigator. Like, I feel like that is more appropriate for them. I mean, I don't think that Mute never said she wanted a romantic relationship, and I don't know if they end up that way, but, at least to have each other as the only survivors of the Mugunghwa, like, that's, really actually very meaningful. But then we get a picture of Hyune helping Mute buy a maid outfit on Earth.
There you go.
So, in the Mute ending, let's see.
So your ending is, so Mute has reset herself. So this is like the 3rd version of Mute that you're ending.
Right. So
Factory original.
And Mute sort of gives me a question. She says, "So after reading all that, how do you feel?" My options were Ryu and Yuna were right.
Damn.
Ooh, damn.
I hate Old Mute and or it was Old Mute fucked up or something like that, and it's like I hate everyone equally. I was like, well, I don't think Old Mute was like she fucked up, but it wasn't like I hate her for it. I mean, I was not really personally invested in the Mugunghwa. I didn't have any stakes on that ship. However many hundreds of years ago it was. So it's hard to have personal feelings for that. So I decided to say I hated everyone equally. And I read through the logs a little bit. It doesn't really change what happens later. But for me, New Mute was like, okay, I don't really agree with you, but etc. And then she says, well, it all comes down to hate, blah, blah, blah. And sort of hate is how, sort of all these bad things sort of kept happening in this game, in the game, or in the both games. And basically people holding on to that sort of hate sort of thing, brought forth just even worse problems, and New Mute sort of resolves herself to not really being part of that hate, I guess, and then also goes on to say that she doesn't believe in second chances or things like that, and that the last thing that Mute number 2 said before she erased her memories was quote, "You're me." And from that, New Mute says, I'm Old Mute. I betrayed Hale. I'm also New Mute who lived through that dynasty and became your bride, and I'm also this New Mute. All these people are the same ones. They're not any different. And then it sort of ends on, and I look forward to being your sidekick when we get back on Earth. And I'm treated to some nice credits of, I guess this is her waking up on a robot body on my ship.
Oh. Could you show us that?
Yeah.
Didn't you post it?
Yeah, I posted it earlier. I'm assuming.
Oh, okay, that's her. Ship? That's her waking up in the robot body on the ship. Okay, and then
because like there's a picture of you with it looks like just sort of a blank tablet beforehand.
Yeah,
and then
you're giving a thumbs up,
and it's like this empty chair before, and then now the screen following that, and then has thanks for playing next to it has New Mute in her sort of military soldierish outfit sitting in that chair. And I'm giving thumbs up on my new robot wife body.
Oh, and she's covering her eye.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like
I was like, why is
her
that
old photo that had the eye patch?
Yeah, I was like, why is she covering her eye? I was like, oh yeah, because
she's all mutes. All mutes at the same time. And we're like, always look like a burn victim in these things.
Yeah. So Mute just had this big spiel about what hate sort of means, and don't hate things too much.
Because that's bad.
That's kind of unsatisfying. I also feel like even though these games had hate in the title, and there's a lot of hate happening in the games, like I don't feel like I feel like we used a lot. We never used the word hate as the motivation behind these villainous actions, right? Like we have more complex words like obsession and cowardice and apathy. And I don't know, hate is like yeah, we're gonna kill all these people.
It's not a very strong theme.
Well, I think like more the hate. I mean, Mute didn't give too many good examples, but like hate was sort of why Yuna killed everyone on the ship.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like those very specific instances in in Hate Plus, I don't think there's much that we can say was specifically just rage or hate-filled, at least solely, and I don't have the log right in front of me, so I can't see if Mute has any examples of that in her
There was that guy from the maintenance dock telling us to get our shields recalibrated, and he probably hated that we didn't do that.
Shit.
that guy that we're always causing problems for.
I feel like the Analog A Hate Story is a good title for that particular story. Hate Plus maybe doesn't carry through the theme of hatred so much as it is simply just additional content that explains the backstory to what we experience.
Yeah.
The Analog A Hate Story is truly a story in which someone's justifiable hatred causes the end of a society.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I was sort of, after hearing Mute, do a whole speech about how hate is important in sort of the context of the story, I was wondering if Yuna had a speech about how analog is important.
Just for the record, I do have the speech here. I won't read the whole thing, but it's based. But the two things she mentions is it all comes back to hate, doesn't it? Like, Emperor Taijo and Queen Yuna founded a new dynasty on hatred for the way it used to be, and everyone on the Mugunghwa died because the Pale Bride was filled with hate, Then she goes into, like, it's hate all the way down, hate self-perpetuating, hate breaks you down, but that's the more philosophical thing. So those are really the two, events she mentions around hate.
That was a better summary than what I gave of what she said, though. I
hated it, so, yeah. I hated your summary.
Oh, yeah.
Be careful, don't hate too much.
I guess, hatred of the way things were, or hatred of your past self, it works, but I think the words we used, were a little more complex than just calling that hate. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, Hate Plus, if we're talking about the title and how much the word hate, I felt like that was just a little more of a direct sort of, I don't know, hate to more hate, but more referring to the first more than the concept of hatred or anything like that.
Yeah, because I think
it's more face value.
If you're talking about a character who, and there's a lot of characters who clearly hate themselves. Mute struggles with hating herself, but I think there are more subtle words to use with that kind of situation versus just they hate themselves.
Well, I guess, you know what it is, maybe, too? It's because this really, if we're talking about, the titles and things like that, Digital A Love Story starts up, right? And that's apparently got nothing to do with this, as far as I'm aware. Either of the stories we read. But, you can tell, there's, a little clever pun and things like that, and this is Analog A Hate Story, which is sort of a complimentary thing. But it is, a hate story, it is very clever, etc. But the thing is that it does leave open the story of, how did the Mugunghwa get like this, and you know what I mean? There's kind of an open thread there, and so this is a little more ancillary to that because it is trying to answer that question or close that loop rather than maybe be. I don't want to say maybe be its own story because that doesn't sound quite right, but you know what I mean? It's branching off of something more directly than the other two stories might have been.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, it closes.
I'm in your head now, love.
The causality situation, and it sort of explains it. But it doesn't have I don't know that it has as strong of a message to send. Like we were talking about before, that there's a specific strong theme that's this is what this game is about. But I do enjoy how much it's a sort of a compliment to Analog in that. The central downfall of these women characters is that they refuse to be weak. When we just came from a game where where women are forced to be weak.
Mm-hmm.
They should have just called it Bummer Plus. Am I right?
So to wrap it up, we have the Yuna ending, which is she says something like, I guess that's it. We've read everything we can. She does the normal thing where she's being cute, where it's thanks for letting me be your sidekick, and so she does sort of have more adult conversation topics in this, where she says that it was really hard for her to parse and understand, but she begins to understand what's going on, and she asked the same question about how do you feel about everything, and I think I also said that I hate everyone equally just because it was the most logical explanation. And her response is the theme that I kind of brought up earlier, which is, she says, it's troubling, there's no hero or villain to root for, they're just people in the end. And after you kind of move on from there, she's like, her big question is, will you get me a body, please? There are two options that are sorry it's impossible, and one that's just yes. I don't know about you, Polo, but I just went with yes, because it seemed like this was say anything else might be for laughs, but it wouldn't be what we've been doing this whole time.
No, it would be run counter to the mission.
Exactly. Like, I think it was obvious that they were like, oh, look, here are the two wrong answers, and here's the only one right answer you should say. And then when you do that, she says that she read the message about testifying, and
yeah, I wanted to bring that up. She's been
emails?
reading our emails,
and some of the emails are weird. So, like, that's weird.
Yeah. So if we had said to her, "No, I'm sorry, it's impossible," she probably would have fired back with, "No, it's not."
It's actually even a bit more depressing. She just sort of accepts that, and it's called the cage bird ending. She sort of considers herself trapped again, but...
Oh.
God. Maybe that's the true ending.
Is she, like, really depressed?
Like, better than, like, when she was with, the Emperor or whatever, but she does, like, well, I'm sort of not free like I want to be. I'm just... So... But she's happy to be with a person, rather than on the Mugunghwa alone.
Wow. The best I'm gonna get ending.
Yeah. That's kind of the feeling that she puts out there. It's really sad.
Wow.
So no, don't say that it's impossible. Say you're gonna get the body.
Yeah, and when you say,
I think she pushes you a little bit if you first say it's impossible. I was like, really, but.
So she's just like, thank you so much, and then she's like, for like
I think her next question is like, was I a good sidekick?
Yeah, and she's also like, you're like, so after you say yes, she's like, about testifying, and then you're like, the obvious answer is it's your decision, and she's like, well, it's a tough decision. Thank you for trusting me.
She goes through. Yeah, you mentioned she reads the email saying about, we want this AI to testify what happened. Because, in a way, she is the survivor of the entire incident. And the choices are, yes, you should testify, no, you shouldn't, or it's your decision. Which, yeah, the obvious answer is it's your decision. And she's at this kind of mature point, which, yeah, it is my decision. It's a pretty hard decision, but if you'll support me, I think I can do it. So... saying I guess either yes or it's your decision leads her to do that, and then it comes to this, during the credits you get a little scene where she's, I guess, in her robot body, and there's all these pictures from the first game, and I'm assuming she's talking to some kind of council about what happened.
Yeah, it's got like literal screenshots of the game behind her, like as evidence of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder, is she going to testify about the part where you dressed her up as a maid? Is that like relevant information?
I hope not.
She looks older in this picture as well. Like, she looks like more like a woman versus like a kind of I guess a teen.
Hey, we're not pedophiles. We gave our AIs mature women's bodies.
A grown woman's body.
Actually,
she is a 600-year-old girl trapped in a teenage body.
Oh.
No, that reminds me, these robot bodies. I can't remember.
They're supple. Don't worry.
Well, yeah.
God damn it! I just spit stuff on my microphone.
This is apparently the real world, and from our perspective, we've got like real person hands, and these are still clearly animated.
These are still
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
That picture is not real person hands.
I'm sorry, God. That was just very funny today.
The picture is of
we know from the photos.
Yeah, no, those are pretty like anime-y hands.
Yes.
I wouldn't say those are real person
Well,
hands.
All right, that's fair. Yeah.
I think it's ambiguous. as to
I do like the
all
idea
the
of-
illustrations are in that style, or it is like, yeah, this is the future, and yeah, we'll give our AIs a robot body, but they look like animes and not
Yeah,
people.
did we... Basically, my question is, did we give her an anime body, but we're real... You know what I mean?
I choose to
Yeah.
believe yes.
I choose
That
to
we-
believe
that
that
she
all
has an
bodies in the
anime
future
body.
are anime bodies.
Like what do I think our our real planet Earth's real future is gonna look like? Yeah, it's gonna be Hatsune Miku's real. Yeah, so
So there is one alternate ending, I'll link it here in the chat, where Mute sort of walks away from you into a crowd of different people. And also, they have hugely varying different styles in
I think from the
future.
previous
It's
one?
like freaking anime hipsters.
No,
Yeah,
this
this is like
is
some
this
kinda-
is another Mute.
Oh, those are
ending.
cosplayers.
It's like some kind of fucked up Burger King Kids Club.
Oh no.
How do you?
That's pretty
Look at her
freaking
look back at you. Like, don't leave me with them.
Well, this
She looks like, this is my first con. I'm not really certain about this.
So this is-
Never been to MagFest before.
So this is actually supposed to be
girls
the
wear
sad
pink
ending
bike shorts.
for. This is supposed to be the sad ending for Mute, where you just sort of say, "No, I don't think we should hang out anymore. You go do your separate thing." And she's like,
Oh, God.
"Okay, I don't really have anything to do, but that's fine." And so I guess this is her just sort of parting ways. And those three people are there.
So you
I don't-
leave her to
Can
be
I-
devoured by a wild pack of nerds.
No, but you know what? I gotta say it. It's like the option was hang out with me on a spaceship or go to this like awesome future party. Okay, granted, these three people aren't wonderful emissaries of it. I guess. I'm sorry for the people like listening to the audio version of this. Yeah, there's pink anime girl wearing like just it's
Madoka.
anime hipster. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Dude in
Then there's
The
a
beret.
person who
hipster
dives head first
revolver
into a
ocelot.
dessert.
Yeah, that's exactly what it
Yes.
is. Holy shit, it is
Yeah.
hipster revolver.
it is, yeah. And then like woman in this in a robe with the world's longest, most elaborate sleeves. Like the sleeves are most of the robe. It seems
Yeah,
like.
it's almost like she's cosplaying as like Queen Yuna.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and
Maybe
there
these
you
are
go.
like-
Like, they're waving to her, and then she goes over and waves back. Who the fuck are these people?
Yeah,
These
apparently she
other
knows them, but
AIs?
apparently she knows them, or they are like really excited to see her. But like I'm looking through the Let's Play here. By the way, we plugged this before. Professor Prof.
Professor Prof, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm not seeing any context for who these people are.
Like, it never says, like, oh, remember your AI, your immortal AIs from back when you went on this thing? Like, freaking
Yeah.
thousands
What?
of years ago?
God, what
What
kind
if
of
those are
cores
just,
would
like,
these
this is
people
like a-
be?
Like an AI support group, and like all these people are also AIs that have a robot body, and because think about who programmed those AIs and was like, yeah, that's what I want them to look like.
Yeah, like, what's the dumbest fucking outfits I can possibly choose? Oh, I know. The dumb shorts, the dumb hat, and the dumb sleeves. We got 3 of them in a row!
Let me just search DeviantArt here. I've
No,
got my
no,
design docs open.
no, do not put that in chat. Do not.
I'm not actually
the
gonna
guy in
do
the
it. I'm not
video.
that.
The girls look like I said, they're in sort of like stereotypical costumes, but the guy in the middle, I really don't know what his situation is, and like, wow, he's a lot. He's really trying very hard.
I really do
No,
like
I
the
kinda
idea
dig
that
it,
this
but
is that this is a kind of an AI support group.
Every fighting game you've ever played, he's been the guy who's kind of just raised his hand up and down and pretended to be really into the fight in the background somewhere.
He's the guy in the background.
Yeah.
He's
that's right.
3-frame Johnny. Yeah.
I really hope that these are not like, you know, like because in the screenshot there's playtesters on the side, and like I hope that like this was not like, oh, what character should we put in this drawing?
And then it's really like the playtesters and
Yeah,
stuff.
this is how I want to be represented in this game.
Well, Alex Androsky, if that's you, then I thank you for being in every fighting game I've ever enjoyed.
Also, where do you get your shades?
Yes. All right.
So
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's actually kind of good in that, like, Mute not hanging out with the investigator anymore seems like actually a pretty good choice.
okay, so since we're talking about alternate endings, Hyune also has a sort of walk off on your own ending, and she also walks off into a crowd. Those three people aren't there.
That's so
So
weird.
are they replaced by an even wackier bunch of characters?
No, it's just the background. Except now I'm noticing someone in the background has horns. And the other one is entirely. Someone is just wearing booty shorts. An android, I'm guessing. These are very interesting people that are just in the background.
Yeah, also, the main character from Watch Dogs is back there also, just, like, hacking. Oh, man. Trying to look very mysterious.
Looks like Genji in a hoodie.
Oh my god! And then he lights a
like,
cigarette in the next frame.
Oh, I see. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, it looks very, like, I don't know, like 80s, early 90s anime type scene
Oh, yeah,
in the
totally.
background.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess Yune's
you
off on her
see-
own versus Mute is sort of explicitly welcomed, which is interesting.
So maybe the
Did you see
implication
that-
is that, yes, these are Mute's old friends.
Huh? But how?
Because AIs are immortal. They just change jobs every 600 years.
Oh, so these... But then they go bad after, like, a few thousand, right?
Well, if they change... I don't know. I don't think there's ever a time where they're just destroyed. I think if... Like, remember the AI psychologist said he's changed... Or he or she has changed jobs, like, 3 times already? Maybe you just keep
Yeah, it's
changing.
like they go bad if they don't change it up.
Yeah, and it seems like in the present in the game, AI psychology is much more well understood, and so that's kind of like, oh yeah, this is how it works.
Yeah, if they've got AI psychologists, I wonder if they have things like AI clubs and AI support groups, and just like it's this entire social class.
Maybe that's why the background looks the way it does, because she's in a cyber club.
Although, when you look
Sometime.
behind the people for Mute, it's kind of the same thing. There's those shadowy figures. Maybe it's saying that, like, Hyune has no one to go to, whereas Mute does.
Maybe.
I don't know.
So let's give a little bit of an upper. There's one more alternate ending that we didn't cover, which is if you say you shouldn't testify about the Mugunghwa. And it seems like I just sort of skimmed the text, but looking at the sort of end credits, that you and Hyune just sort of run off. It looks like you do check out Pyongyang, and it looks, or at least some sort of city with cherry blossoms and stuff. Maybe Pyongyang is actually decent in this future. And then you fly off in your spaceship with your new wife, and that is called Hyune's honeymoon ending.
So you just bounce, and you're like, we don't know anything to anyone, let's go. Let's go
I guess
be
they
married.
can't force you to testify.
I don't know future rules.
I mean,
I don't know the future law,
Yep.
Yeah.
so...
Well, that's good, I guess.
But it's a very happy Hyune ending.
Mm-hmm.
all these endings are kind of good endings.
Not devious.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of got the shit ending. They just owned you.
Well, you also don't want
nothing
the
really happened.
you also don't want the caged bird ending.
Yeah,
Oh,
well, yeah,
nice.
I kind of forgot about that. Yeah.
Hyune and Mute shopping together on Earth was pretty cute. Those pictures, and Hyune's trying to convince Mute to buy a maid outfit. So, like, you know, it's pretty funny.
Wow, that's about as ham-handed.
But yeah.
Jesus Christ, she's got a literal bird on her finger.
Yeah, it's a little heavy-handed. Yeah.
It looks like a real
you
bird,
know.
though.
Yeah, and
Oh, no.
she's in an actual bird cage, sitting
The
on.
real bird confirms that these are just anime bodies. the bodies look like animes.
You can't draw an anime bird.
No, it's true. There are no anime birds. All birds in anime are hyper-realistic.
That revelation.
All birds in anime are fat. They're all fat birds.
So, that was Hate Plus.
That's Hate Plus.
Overall, I enjoyed it. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as Analog, but how could you possibly? But a lot of good writing and a big shoes to fill for the next visual novel that we play.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I was thinking about this earlier today because, like, yeah, there were some parts that were bummers. Like, if we weren't sort of splitting this up more, I would have probably just run through most of this in like a day or two, and so wouldn't have the time to let all the stories sort of stoop and be like.
Well, what about the power thing? Like, you wouldn't let your thoughts.
Power.
You wouldn't let your thoughts stew a little bit.
Damn you, Christine Love!
Forced to think about themes in literature. Oh no.
Well, in that case, I would have probably actually forgotten about it after.
I have to wait. Forget this.
I think it would probably be a lot easier to skim over a lot of the details in the game, especially the details related to like little things people say that betray their secret like pain or secret motivations.
I totally would have gotten all the names wrong if I read through it like really quick.
Definitely.
I'd be like, who the hell's Ryu?
Well, that's why you can click on them.
Right.
Ryu's the easy one to remember. I get tripped up on
because
my
he's in Street Fighter.
sing-song block.
Well, and all the names, like the same family members, not the members of the same family, it will screw you up because it just we have a proclivity to notice the first name and try to differentiate it that way, and so when you see Hyo twice or when you see O twice, it's it's easy to get a little screwed up. But I think in general, though, Analog was real good. Hate Plus is flawed, but it was definitely worth going through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
I give it a B+.
I liked it. I think you kind of summarized like how I felt about it last week or last session, which was I liked all the interpersonal stuff, like the smaller stories. The larger story I wasn't as much of a fan of. Yeah. But like the individual stuff, like Kim So-Yi special, like all that was great, and I enjoyed reading it.
So, did we want to give a hint at how we're deciding our next?
Yeah. So I think the plan, and I don't know that we've fully solidified it yet, is maybe we'll have like a one-off episode where we discuss some of the candidates for it. And things like that,
Season
a council
3 will have
meeting,
an episode 0.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna have a council meeting?
Episode 2+, you might call it. Yes, a council meeting. And there will be...
We're gonna pitch some ideas.
One does not simply walk into a new visual novel.
Oh my god.
Oh god.
You're fired.
Jesus Christ! I apologize.
Oh no! Now I did
Al
a Trump
Pacino
impression.
thing.
Oh, we've gone full circle.
So yeah, we're gonna pitch different visual novels to each other, and
who knew healthcare was this complicated?
And with that, good night.
Still working on a slogan.
No, seriously.
Maybe we'll get it in season 3.
And end the episode now.
All right. Good night, everybody.
See you season 3.